Welcome to Buckets, Game 7. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I'm coming to you from the Tommy John home studios for this, your best bets for Game 7 of the NBA Finals. The two greatest words in sports, and we've got them between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. We've got bets for you all throughout tonight. We'll talk about your bets if you put them in the comments here at youtube.com/Action Network. Hit us with your best bets. We'll talk about them in open run a little bit later on. We got an underdog lineup for you. We've got a parlay. We're going to run back one more time. I'm wearing a blazer. So is Gilles Gallant. I didn't tell the other guys that they needed to, so they look like schmoes. Haha. And so after the game, I do want to remind you that you will be on here again at youtube.com/the Action Network. It is like an open invite to every Buckets contributor just to come in and pop in and give us their thoughts on the game, the series, futures, probably the Kevin Durant trade, which I wrote a thing about. We're not going to talk about in this show because it's disrespectful to have this nonsense of a conversation going on the day of a Game 7. Have you no shame, NBA? We will talk about all that and more on today's show. As a reminder, you want to follow these gents in the Action Network app. First off, we got Kyle Murray from Roto Grinders at KMurr DFS, KMURRDFS. Chris Raybon, the man, the myth, the legend, the best bettor I have ever known at Chris Raybon. We got Gilles Gallant, host of the Touchdown Show, 3 p.m. somewhere. G-Dog 5000 in the Action Network app and on Twitter. Today's going to be celebratory because we have made it. We have done live shows for every round of the second round, the conference finals, and the finals. We have done 5 shows, 6. No, I'm sorry. We've done 7 shows a week in the first round. We have done shows for every single game of the NBA playoffs. We have grown this program, this platform, this community that has showed up for us here in the comments, and I appreciate each and every one of you for joining us. It has been a hell of a season. We have one more game to get to, and we'll talk about it on today's show. So let's start here. Chris Raybon, I want to know, it's a Game 7, and you bet all sorts of sports. And I want to know, how do you change your handicap when you're looking at a Game 7 instead of every other type of game in the universe?
Well, I think you have to just look at what's happened in the past. And, the challenge is there hasn't been many Game 7s, especially this late in the year. And the NBA has changed so much since, some of these Game 7s that people will kind of call back to for the NBA Finals and, even the conference finals. But generally speaking, if you look at the larger sample data, the deeper you get into the playoffs, so if you're talking pretty much anything beyond the first round, you do see a dip in pretty much statistics across the board, especially points scored when you get here. But the real thing is it's somewhat of a decrease in efficiency, but more so, it's been a decrease in pace. And that is really interesting because we know that Indiana kind of did that last game. So, what do they come out and try to run it here? Or do the nerds get to them anyway? You don't know exactly what they're going to do. But generally speaking, that's what we've seen, just less counting stats across the board in these Game 7s in the NBA. You're seeing about a 4-point per team point decrease, which is why you see the total at 215 when it's been at in the mid 220s, and you see just all the other numbers kind of decrease in that same fashion.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this. The reason I didn't have a total bet on my guide for Action Network, and like I said at the very end there, I was like, look, I do not blame you if you just want to bet this simply, which is like these games go under. Every single piece of historical evidence is like, just bet the under, and then you can just walk to the register. It's fine. Is that the Pacers are so defiant, I think, of history, is that it does seem like every single time that I'm in a spot where it's like, this should happen, the Pacers are like, fuck you, and the horse you rode in on. Yep. And that differential, I think, like really matters to me for trying to figure out, like, on the last opportunity, do I really want to go back to the well with like, well, this usually happens. And it can happen, and it probably will happen based off of the history. Like, I totally understand that. I personally could not get to myself to a position where I was like, yes, I am confident enough in the past sequence of events occurring here in this spot. I understand it. I just couldn't really get there. Gilles, when you're looking at props or you're looking at how to bet these kind of things, when you look at a Game 7, how do you adjust for it?
I mean, I think there's still opportunities here or there, but I think a lot of the markets are pretty sharp and not a lot of edge at this point, just given the fact that there is just more of a sample size now. Like even some of the props that like I've been doing, kind of the greatest hits of the finals. You're just kind of running it back because those other edges just haven't been there. But I do think game 7, because of that variance and because the fact that we are now the final game of the year, I just think there is just a little bit more opportunity. That's kind of why I have 3 props tonight instead of 2. 2 of them are going to be 3-point props. So I can't wait to talk about that a little bit more, about some of the opportunity that I like in this game.
We got a lot of folks with us watching right now. We got almost 200 folks in the chat watching right now. I need those likes up. I need them up, 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 up. These guys have brought you great content all throughout the finals. Help me out with that. Kyle, I'm especially interested in your assessment here as somebody that does the projections for Roto Grinders, which you can check out across many sports throughout the week. I want to know kind of what kind of adjustment do you make for a game 7? Do you make an adjustment, or are you just like, I can't really quantify it, so I can't touch it? What do you do when you're doing a projection-based system for a game 7?
Yeah, I think for the most part, for the systems that we're working on, a lot of it is reflected in the total. And I think that kind of comes through in our projections. So, Raybon mentioned the totals are sitting at, mid 220s for the most part of games 1 through 6. And now it's all the way down to 114. I think that kind of quantifies it in terms of not only what we're all expecting, like narrative wise and game environment wise, to have lower scoring and like slower pace and probably more intense defense, but that definitely comes through in the total, and therefore that's kind of how it comes out in the projections. And in terms of a game 7, that's kind of where, in my opinion, that I think taking an edge on or a stand on minutes or being aggressive on some minutes, especially top end guys, I think that's sort of where the handicap is changing for me in game 7. But I do think most of it kind of comes through in the model and then in the formulas that are being pulled in from the Vegas totals just in general, bringing numbers down across the board.
Jill, what's like the lesson you're going to take from these finals? Like, what do you feel like you've learned from betting these finals? Is there anything that you feel like you've learned either about one of the teams, about betting process in general? What do you feel like you've taken away?
Well, if the Thunder do win tonight and they're pedestrian again from 3-point, is that maybe the 3-point revolution isn't as important as we thought, because there are some games in this series where they just look horrible shooting 3-point props. So from a historical standpoint, that's kind of what I would take away from this. But another thing too is that if the Thunder do lose tonight, like, I think Dags has some questions about his coaching and the rotations that he's been choosing and the minutes and the allotment and stuff that like they were sitting on a golden ticket coming into this series. The double big lineup just hasn't worked. And now here we are in a game 7 where, what is it? The spread's now 7, but it was opening at 9. I think the talk about it now is that the Pacers can actually win this game. And this is one of those teams that I don't think I would have had as a top 3 choice in the East to make the finals coming into the season. So it's just wild that here we are now in game 7 where the Pacers actually have a chance to win the NBA championship.
I will never forgive myself for liking this team so much last year and liking this team's construct and then not being in on them to start this playoff run. I will never forgive myself for it. Chris Raybon, what do you feel like you've learned throughout the process of these finals?
I think the big thing is 3-point shooting is going to create variance. And, that's why it's, as you kind of alluded to, it's so tough sometimes to just lay a blanket statement out for game 7s. Oh, they're going to be lower scoring or decreased efficiency or whatnot, because the NBA is so different now. And you see that with OKC, where OKC plays excellent defense most of the time, but that last game, game 6, they gave up 108 points. Like, you would take that if you're OKC. It was just that they really got in their own way offensively because their threes just have not been falling, and they haven't been able to get good looks on the road. And they've been a very Jekyll and Hyde home road team. You kind of understand that when you look at their home court advantage. So I would just say, always keep that in mind, that even a team like OKC, historically good on defense, a Pacer team that underperformed in the regular season to an extent, we're here in game 7 because you can go cold at the wrong times. And OKC's gone cold. Really, they're lucky they didn't lose another one. I think they won a game where they only hit 3 threes. The Pacers are actually very good at defending catch and shoot opportunities too. So that is something where the bounce back for OKC, just because they're back at home, 3-point wise anyway, might not be, as good as some people expect. But Yeah, I think that's really what it is to me. It's like you can have an edge as a team, but 3-point shooting is going to create a lot of variance. And the Pacers, they run and gun and generally, let it fly from three no matter what.
Here's fun with sample size. In game sevens, when a team hits more threes, they are 48-17 straight up, 53-12, 82% against the spread. No surprise there. When you look at the NBA Finals, since 2013, there's only been one of them, and guess what? The Warriors shot and made more threes than that game 7 and lost. So, build your own narrative is how that goes. All right, let's talk a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry, Kyle. Is there anything that like you've taken away from these finals to adjust for your projections?
Yeah, I think one thing for me, I mean, over the course of the last few years doing projections for a handful of different sports, I think one thing I've always heard is that, the NBA and basketball is the easiest sport to project and predict. But and while I do agree with that, I think playoffs just open up a whole new world of variance and volatility. And I think, at least for me personally, I think leaning into some more of that volatility and betting angles is going to be something that I'm trying to do more in the playoffs in the future. And that doesn't necessarily come through in the regular season when you're sort of essentially just betting on numbers for the most part for me. But I do think there's more of an edge to be had in terms of betting into some of that variance and embracing some of the variance and some of the stuff that might happen game over game. So that's one thing that I'll definitely be taking forward in the playoffs.
Look at the market real quick. We are saying at 7, pretty much consensus across the board. There is a 6.5 in the market. I was surprised because I kept expecting there to be a buyback point on OKC at some point, and it just has not come, not yet. We were still hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes ish, I guess, with Anthem, hour and 20 away from tip off, and there still hasn't been a buyback on OKC. They still public's on Pacers, Sharp's been in on Pacers, money and tickets on Pacers. They like Indiana here, at least on the spread. Money line is split, though. 54% on Thunder, 78% of the money on the Indiana Pacers. So big money is in on the Pacers to win this game outright, whether that's caused by previous positions on OKC and hedges or not. It's an interesting question. Total-wise, we're still set to 214.5. Not a lot of movement here. Tickets and money are on the over, but the sharp action has consistently stayed on the under, which makes sense. If you've listened to any betting podcast, including ours, you know all of the plays. If for no other reason than just take a look at Brandon Anderson's betting board. Take a second and go look at Brandon Anderson in the Action Network app and see just how many ways that man has bet unders. Just like incredible stuff. No one, like first half, no one to reach 45 is my favorite one that I tailed today. That was great. That was a hell of a lot of fun. I don't even like the total plays, and I had to play that one. It was so good. So that's kind of where we're at for the market. I do want to tell you about Underdog. Underdog is one of the best places to make picks during playoff basketball. And while they score buckets, you can score cash. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play right now in your state. Their app has over 100,000 5-star reviews and millions of players. To play, all you have to do is download the app and choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats. You can choose from things like points, assists, and so much more. Once your picks feel good, you can play with as little as $1. And if you get everything right, you could win up to 1,000 times your money. We have a 3-man lineup for you here for Underdog. Higher, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 32.5 points, courtesy of Kyle Murray. Lower, 4.5 assists for Andrew Nembhard. And my favorite one more time, run it back. TJ McConnell, over, higher, 0.5 3-pointers made, 1.8 times. You get 3 of those right, it's 4.42 times your money. You get just 2 of them right, and we're still at 1.8. You'll get the caps on those as we continue with best bets. Download the Underdog app and sign up with promo code Buckets100 to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code Buckets100. It must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. our last best bets of the 2025 season. I'm choked up. All right, let's do it. Chris Raybon, what do you want to bet in Game 7?
Oh man, well, I already got like 11 bets in the action app, so definitely follow me on there. But we're gonna go with my two favorite ones here, and that's gonna be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander regression game under 2.5. Under 2.5 turnovers, and Nemhard under those 4.5 assists.
Okay, Kyle Murray, what are your bets?
Yeah, I'm going under Chet Holmgren, 26.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And then we're going to SGA one more time, over 32.5 points.
Gilles Gallant.
Yeah, so I'm gonna run back TJ. TJ is a bet, but Tyrese Halliburton is what I'm running back here. Over 2.5 turnovers. Grab that at -105. I'm going to take Alex Caruso over 1.5 3-pointers. I got that at +155, and doing a long shot. It's 3 p.m. somewhere. TJ McConnell to hit a 3-pointer at +300.
All right. Where to start here? Let's start with Chris Raybon, and let's start with SGA and good old under 2.5 turnovers.
Yeah, so this is one of the most ridiculous splits of any player in this series, and that's SGA's turnovers. Williams to a lesser extent, but SGA has been under 2.5 turnovers in 10 of his 12 games at home this postseason, and just 4 of 10 when he goes on the road. If you look at the regular season and postseason combined, at home, he goes under this. He goes under this 73% of the time. On the road, he only goes under this 39% of the time. And this is in about 100-game total sample, 38 of 52 under at home, and just 18 of 46 under on the road. But to kind of dig deeper into the X's and O's, what's really been happening here is SGA has been driving to the hoop as he usually does, but his pass percentage, like the amount of times he's passing, has just continued to decrease. And I think it just got to a point where I think it's going to be a point of emphasis to, create offense for others and be more of a playmaker again. He's really kind of struggled in that assist category over the past few games. So I think you're going to see just a smarter, more deliberate ball handling version of SGA, and not somebody who's just driving and thinking he can do everything, which he kind of can. His handle is ridiculous, but if you look at just what's been going on, I mean, he's been passing like 20% of the time on his drives, which it just needs to be higher just to get OKC's offense in rhythm more. So I love the SGA under turnovers here, because you have real kind of game reasons for it to bounce back, and you still get the line because he had a ridiculous outlier in the previous spot.
Interesting that you're taking the under on turnovers when you're expecting a higher assist play, but I get it from the perspective of he'll be more careful. If he has back-to-back stinkers and they lose this game, it's gonna be rough out there for the kiddo. That would be tough for him. Genuinely, like, I don't want I don't want to deal with the narrative all summer of SGA, because I'm just like, take this team to the finals at like 26. What are we doing here? Speaking of Kyle Murray, you are not going to go on the safe side in terms of him being safe. You are going to go back to the well with him over 32.5 points.
Yeah, no, this kind of feels like the the donkey play of the night, taking SGA's over on his points in a Game 7. But the number really, my numbers really like him over for 36.5 is sort of where I project this closer to. Numbers up to 33.5 at some places. It opened up at 31. It's at 32 now. So obviously all the market stuff has me on the over for this 32.5 number. Like I mentioned, my model has over 36.5, and I get the sort of the narrative and the under approach that we're taking in Game 7s. I agree with that across the board, but I think SGA is an outlier here. I do think he's going to have a chance to play more minutes. I have projected for 40 minutes, which seems like a high-end projection, but I honestly would not be surprised if he plays 41 or 42 plus minutes here in a game 7. So with that being the case, if he's going to play 40 to 42 plus minutes, I think his shot volume is going to be up in this game 7 environment, especially coming off of that loss. So I do think we should see a lot of volume and a lot of playing time, and that should lead to a lot of opportunities, not only from the field, but on the line as well for SGA. So I like the over 32.5 points.
I mean, if you're ever going to play a guy 45 minutes, tonight might be the one that you should. I don't know though. It's Dags. Surprise! Dags is playing him 29 minutes. Got to keep him fresh for next season. All right, let's go to Gilles Gallant because I love this comment from Kinful. McConnell to shoot a 3 is a ballsy move, man. Have you seen his stats? Yeah, Gilles, have you seen TJ McConnell's stats? Talk to me about over 0.5 3-pointers plus 300. I have bet this I stand with Gilles Gallant.
Well, it turns out, I have not watched a game in this series. I was just merely taking it because I like his name, and he went to Arizona. So, TJ McConnell to hit a 3-pointer in this game. This is my long shot bet of the game. I'm going to take the bait because he is right. Have I looked at his stats? Yes. He's only taken 5 3-point attempts the entire series. But why I'm taking it is because 4 of those 5 were in OKC. All 3 of his threes that he's hit in this series were in OKC, and all 3 were wide freaking open because they're daring him to shoot. They want to live with that shot because he is one of the only few Pacers that is successful when attacking the paint and driving to the hoop and making chaos happen. And you're starting to see that minutes start to increase over the last 2 games. Some of that could be attributed to the Halliburton injury, but he is somebody that I know that Rick Carlisle relies on. So I think the Thunder are going to dare him again to shoot it and live in a pick your poison scenario. And considering I had probably expected odds around plus 250, given that's where the odds were over the last 2 games at plus 300, I'm going to take the ride.
I may literally go get a bottle of champagne at halftime if he hits this, and I'm gonna pop it and spray it everywhere after the game if he hits this live on the post game show. All right, Raybon, let's go back to you. I like this play. This looks very sharp to me. The under on Andrew Nembhard assists 4.5. Talk to me.
Yeah, so Nembhard actually saw a huge spike in potential assist last game, which is why I think this line has stayed at 4.5. But he's been under this number in each of the past 5 games. He had 6 in game 1, and then it's been 4 or fewer ever since. And I do think he's going to be out there, so that minutes shouldn't be a problem. But there's a lot of things kind of working against him getting a ton of assists in this spot. Number one, I generally think Indiana might see a bit of a downtick in assists just because I don't think there's going to be as much transition chaos because OKC had a ridiculous turnover game in that last game, which always creates even more opportunities for assists in transition. But also, you're going to have presumably Halliburton able to assume a little bit more of the playmaking. And then with McConnell kind of trending up, they like the ball in his hands as well because he can attack the paint. So, and then Nembhard, he usually, if they're really in need of offense, he's a guy that he'll just go downhill and get it himself. Like, he's not afraid to shoot it, try to get to the line, whatever he needs to do. So I can see him being aggressive. We've seen that late in series for him as well. But he also has, his primary responsibility is going to be to keep SGA in check. He's been guarding him pretty much all over the floor. He was still on him a ton, even with the switching where they were picking him up last game. And I do think there's a little bit more of a risk if he comes out of the game. It'll probably be foul trouble, at home. OKC, everyone talks about free throw merchant, this and that. But SGA, I mean, we could see that here. So that would be the angle to get him out of the game. But in general, I just think he's headed for a 6th straight game of 4 or fewer, just based on what his role is in his offense and just how many other players are kind of competing for ball handling duties at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think the message has really been for Nembhard is don't try and force things because of how good OKC is at taking those steals. And so him playing very much if If you've got an angle on pick and roll, shoot it. If not, reset the offense. Like the triggers, I think, are very simple for him, and they're trying very hard not to make anybody make really complex plays. That's why they've actually had more shot clock violations, which is a rare for the Pacers, but it's because they're trying to avoid the turnovers, because those are way worse than a shot clock violation. Gilles, let's talk about Alex Caruso. Let's go back to 3-point props, and let's talk Alex Caruso over 1.5 threes plus 155.
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking before we came on air, Raybon kind of made a point about Caruso that it might have been the worst game. It was probably the worst game he's played in the playoffs. He just did not look good. But I'm trusting in a bounce back spot here for Caruso, especially at these odds at plus 155, because I'm expecting a high minute count for him tonight, 30 plus minutes, usually more than he usually is playing. That he's at least what we've seen from the playoffs. And the other thing too, Raybon kind of talked about this with SGA's turnovers and the home and road splits. Well, that also translates to 3-point rate for the Thunder, because it's way higher at home than on the road in the playoffs. As a team, 33.8 3-point attempts in road games, shooting 29% as a team. And that's like Orlando Magic bad, right? So, and then at home, the 3-point attempts climbed to 36.5, up to 38% shooting. That's the 4th best in the NBA playoffs amongst all teams. So then when you isolate it just to the finals, they're averaging 22 3-point attempts per game and 30% shooting on the road. At home, that jumps to 32 attempts, 39%. So what we've seen in the playoffs is similar to what we're seeing in the finals, that the home and road splits are very true for this Thunder team. And I think this aligns with Caruso as well, who's also seeing a very similar split, shooting 42% at home, 40% on the road, but his attempts are at 4.2 at home compared to 3.5 on the road. And now in the finals, that's at 5.1 attempts at home compared to just 1.7 on the road. So if we're seeing 4 or 5 3-point attempts from Alex Caruso, I'm really liking the chances of this hitting. And then I'd also like to point out, from a trend standpoint, he's got 10 playoff games in this campaign with 4 or more 3-point attempts. And when he takes 4 or more 3-point attempts, he's hit this prop in 8 of them. So I think Alex Caruso, this is a guy that I think he could be very effective. This is why they got him. They're going to want to lean on his defense and his 3-point shooting. And at that price, I love it at plus 155.
If Caruso goes over this, it's such like a low. I mean, it's just like 6 points, but to me, that's like a huge swing in their favor. Like the very simple cap of under OKC and Alex Caruso over 1.5 threes seems like a very highly correlated outcome. Just the impact that he makes. Kyle, you want to fade poor Chet Holmgren, who's just this skinny little kid trying to deal with all these big guys knocking him around. He's had some moments, but you want the under 26.5 PRA tonight. Tell me why.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned he definitely has had some moments throughout this series. I think that's also sort of led to a bit of an inflated line here. I actually wanted initially the under 17.5 points and assists, but I missed that number. It came down to 16.5, so I'm going to 26.5 PRA, which is also down to 25.5 on some books. So I do like this number under 26.5 just based on, just looking at the rest of the market. But again, I do think that this number on the rebound portion of it is also a bit elevated and inflated just because of those games 4 and 5, the big performance that he had on the glass there. And like you mentioned, he's been getting bumped around. I do think that he's dealing with that ankle issue a little bit. I think that's impacting him a bit. His field goal percentage has dropped significantly. I think he's down to 10 for 32 from the field since coming across that little issue. I don't think it's anything that's going to cause him to lose minutes or anything, but I do think it's at least worth noting. And I'm projecting for a pretty solid minutes run here, 33.5 minutes. And even with that projection, only getting him to about 24.5 points, rebounds, and assists. So the model likes the under on 26.5 PRA for Chet.
If this is a game where not only Indiana bust out the zone, but OKC bust out the zone, this number is probably very good for Chet on the under. And the reason is because on the rebound side, he's going to be mostly located. They'll probably run the 3-2. And if they run that 3-2, Chet's going to have to close to the corner of Miles Turner and then get back inside to box out and rebound. And that's really tough for him with his hip size. And that's literally a thing. It's like the size of his hips. And so that's a tough one for him to be able to kind of navigate. So I'm kind of expecting a lot of zone in this one. I like that play quite a bit. Last one, Gilles. Tyrese Halliburton over 2.5 turnovers. One more time.
I just like that we were talking like a hip handicap. That's what we're doing now.
This is the kind of in-depth detail I provide.
The lidocaine, the hip handicap.
Not very actionable, but That's
Oh,
what
I love
provide.
it, man. You are probably a physician in your another life at
Let's
this
hope not.
point with some of the handicap that we've got. But let's talk about Tyrese Halliburton, who bum calf, but didn't really seem to show it in game 6. Mind you, he didn't really have to play a ton of minutes. So I think that's part of the reason why people will look at the box scores and say, well, Gilles, it didn't hit in game 6, but he only played 23 minutes. In games up till that point, he was playing 34 minutes or more, and it hit in every game of the series. And he's averaging 3.5 turnovers per game in the series. I think there's just going to be more turnovers, more tip passes. I think the refs are going to be letting OKC maybe hack it up a little bit, let them play through contact, which could then lead to more turnovers as well. And we've seen it where they come in bunches too for Halliburton, like where in the first quarter, maybe just a little bit more passive. And then it just becomes like a Thunder onslaught where he'll have like 3 turnovers in a quarter, like he did in game 5. I also do think that calf injury, while he did look half decent in game 6, I think it's still lingering. It's going to limit his upside. It's part of the reason why I'm looking at the McConnell cap here. But I mean, it's game 7. I feel pretty good with a minute projection of 36 minutes with potential to go higher into the 40s, given how close the game might be. So Tyrese Halliburton over 2.5 turnovers. I'm still seeing that right now in the market around -120.
Okay. I like it. We've got a parlay for you as well. And the parlay is pretty straightforward. Under 214.5 points. Lou Dort, 2+ threes made. Gilles Gallant thinks there's going to be a lot of OKC threes tonight, or a higher probability of OKC threes. Chet Holmgren under 26.5 PRA from Kyle Murray. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander over 1.5 steals. That pays out at +800 in the market. That's your final parlay for buckets for 2025. We'll do open run here. By the way, I did want to do one thing and shout out Kyle Murray, who apparently hit on Keegan Bradley today, which is awesome. Way to go, Kyle.
Nice.
Just want to give you a shout out on that, buddy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Let's do some open run. Your bets. Tell me where you're at, and we'll get to them. We'll try and go probably in reverse order here. So we'll go with Paulo Chacon says Halliburton under 15.5 points. Fading that calf makes a lot of sense. Maybe it's swelling up more. I can see how that happens. Beat All Odds Fantasy, who has basically been in here beating the drum for the Pacers, says Halliburton getting 0 turnovers tonight. Good luck to you, sir. We'll go back up to the top here. Just Fred at the beginning of our show said OKC Thunder first quarter money line and Pacers full money line +600. So Pacers Thunder to win first quarter. This has been like,
I kind of wonder, Matt, with that one, if maybe you wait to see, like, you could bet that in the intermission between first quarter and second quarter. Like if the Thunder are up by like 8 to 10 points at the end of the first quarter, you might be able to get better than 6-1 on that Pacers money line spot.
Last 3 game 7s in the conference finals or finals, the winning team is trailed at halftime. I think that's it's 3 games. I just am stunned by the fact that it's happened 3 straight times. Mock River says Pacers by 50 would be an aggressive alternate line if you went that route. Taylor says SGA 6 assists, 2 steals, and Dort 2 3-pointers, 2 steals at +11. Raybon, they would like your perspective on that for a same game parlay of SGA 6 assists and 2 steals, and Dort 2 threes and 2 steals.
I like that because I'm already on the Dort over 1.5 threes and the SGA over 1.5 steals. And we've just so the thing with Dort is Indiana is great at defending catch and shoot opportunities, but Dort, because he has to guard, he's kind of like Nembhard on the other side, where in this game, I think he'll just be in the game a lot more than he has over the past few, because Albert's probably going to be in the game more. And when Dort's in the game, he's usually getting those catch and shoot opportunities, and he's especially confident in letting them rip on his home floor. And again, I think SGA is going to kind of make it a point to pass the ball a little bit more, drive and kick, and get him some of those open opportunities. So if you just look at the splits, I mean, it's, he's been over this number in the postseason, over 1.5 in 9 of 12 postseason home games, only 4 of 10 on the road, 29 of 38 home games in the regular season for Dort compared to less than half on the road. So another guy with just huge home road splits. That applies to SGA's assists. I think Indiana's legit good, though, at limiting assists. So, but I do think that Dort is the most likely guy to have a big 3-game if the trends kind of go back.
All right. Brandon Jones going up against Kyle Murray. SGA under 32.5 points, he says, but he does like the SGA 1.5 steals, Obi 4.5 rebounds, Pascal 3 assists. Kyle, I'm curious about you about Dort rebounds. We've had some kind of questions about that. Where do you have Dort projected for rebounds for this game?
I have him for 4.3 rebounds.
Okay. What's his line at?
Looks like it's 3.5.
Okay.
Yeah, 3.5.
The over looks good there if you were wondering about that one. David Martell, who joined us for almost every show, says McConnell minus 0.5 assists versus J-Dub plus 105. That's an interesting one. TJ averaging 9 potentials last 4 and J-Dub only 6.8. Yes, I know, because my J-Dub most assists in the finals ticket is absolutely in the ground with flowers sticking out of it. Gilles Gallant, what do you think about this one?
I mean, I don't know. I still feel like J-Dub is getting a lot of handle as far as lead ball handling, just to get SGA some room to move off. So, and I like the McConnell 3-point play, but there is still a chance where he might play only like 16 minutes. You know what I mean? Whereas Jalen Williams, I think, is probably going to play 38 minutes or more. So that one I don't feel comfortable taking either way, because I know McConnell has some potentials, but again, they could try to trim that up and just make him a shooter instead.
SGE wants Kyle's thoughts on this 2-legger, minus 115 on SGA over 39.5 PRA and Halliburton under 19.5 points. Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I do prefer just SGA's points, but I do have him slightly projected to go over the PRA number and Halliburton under 19.5. That's a pretty significant alt, so I think that one's just fine as well. I have him projected right around his actual line. I think it's 14.5 across all the markets, and I have him at 14.7-ish. I'm being a little conservative on his minutes still, which could end up being a wrong thing to do. I have him at 33.5 minutes. I think there is upside for more. I think there's also downside for some. That's kind of why the median comes in at about 33.5. But yeah, that's where the projections are at for what it's worth.
Prisoner's Dilemma says, if you like OKC Money Line, bet both SGA and J-Dub as MVP instead. You'll get much better odds. There is a minus 250 money line in the market on OKC right now. There's an outlier line sticking out there. I got a text about that from Raheem Palmer, who used to work with us here at Action. Chris, I want to know your thoughts on this, because I always love getting your thoughts just directionally, even though you don't bet as many of the sides. OKC Money Line in the under 214.5 at plus 150. What do you think about that?
In the game 7, I don't mind it at all. I think that OKC, like it's kind of it's the natural thing to do if you think about it. OKC's one of the best defensive teams that's ever been in the finals of all time, at least statistically. And the pace, they've kind of been their problem has been offense, but as I mentioned, from what we've seen in game 7s, it's pace that really takes the hit and brings the score down. And I think after the MVP has 8 turnovers in a potential clinching game, yeah, they might be a little more careful, a little more deliberate. And on the other side, Indiana likes to run now. They didn't run last game, but they did have all those OKC turnovers, which create quick buckets. And you just don't expect that to happen here. So, yeah, it all sets up for just a grinded out game. And I would even, you don't even need to just take the money line there. You could take the spread, because I think if OKC is really willing to slow it down, they'll probably have a big enough lead. Because, if the game gets anywhere close, they're going to be like, they've seen it too many times where they've coughed up these leads or almost coughed up these leads. So I think I would just go ahead and take maybe do it both ways. Take a spread too, maybe even some alt lines, because we know OKC capable of winning big at home when they do win.
A couple more and then we'll get out of here. Oliver says OKC first half minus 4.5. They've covered that at home easy in every game. They are actually 10-2 in the first half in the NBA playoffs. So they are the most profitable team, though. They are 10-2, and that is the best number first half in the NBA playoffs at home. Okay, it's gonna do it. Appreciate you guys being with us. It's been a heck of a lot of fun. A lot of folks today hanging out with us for game 7. Enjoy it, man. These games are special. Come check us out after the game right here, same bat time, same bat channel. After the game, we'll go live. Jim Turvey, Joe Delera, any of our other buckets guys that want to join us. Jill might be drunk. That's an exciting plot twist.
I mean, whether I show up or not, I'm probably going to be drunk. So
make sure to come check us out. We appreciate you guys being with us. Enjoy Game 7. May all your bets cash. Till next time, get buckets.